Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kind for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard, Lee Grant. Welcome aboard, Bridge MCP, Eric Hayes, IVQ, also known as El Senor Ratne, and Paul Fleming Sr. How are you doing? Didn't get that email from you, Bridge MCP. How you doing, my beautiful lady? And of course, there's Yvette Avery Herod. ¿Cómo estás, mi preciosa? Espero que todo está bien ahorita mismo. Trust all is well with you. We are going to have a great show for you today. Today, I'm going to play the interview I did with WBAI in New York, the Pacifica station out there. All right, let's go ahead and start reading what you guys are saying so we can get busy. Michael says, Egberto, listen to the WBAI program days ago when you talked about Jamal Bowman, AIPAC, and that fake progressive group. One of the tactics of the far right, including AIPAC, is to throw money behind AstroTurf groups who claim popular sounding names, including progressive named groups who aren't actually progressive. And then they smear actual progressives. It's a horrible tactic. If the far right tried challenging progressives fairly on the issues that matter, the right would lose nearly every time. And they know this. When they acknowledge that the means justify the ends, they'll pay whatever dirty tactics they can in order to win. I should remind everyone that AIPAC is a foreign national entity throwing dark money into our politics, and somehow that's legal. We've got a big problem that needs to be addressed. I want to say something about, well, actually, I did say it in the interview, so I won't say it again here. Let's go. Breed says, sorry, a tad long. The UN Secretary General invoked Article 99 to push for a Gaza ceasefire. What exactly is it? It's called Article 99, and it has been used for decades. Until this week, with an intensified Israeli offensive and escalating civilian casualties, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres invoked a rarely exercised power this week to warn the Security Council of an impending humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. He urged members to demand an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. Guterres invoked Article 99 on the UN Charter, last used over half a century ago. Article 99 is a provision of the United Nations Charter, the UN Constitution, any matter which, in his opinion, may threaten the maintenance of the international peace and security. Guterres invoked Article 99 because he sees the situation in Gaza at risk of complete collapse of the territorial humanitarian system and civil order. It was something he felt needed to be done. The United States, which is Israel's closest allies and has veto power on the Security Council in the Israeli-Gaza war, is not to get in the way of important diplomacy that's taken place. And he said the Security Council resolution at this time would not be useful. This could signal a likely veto, but the U.S. has not said either way. In that case, why invoke it? Because Guterres believed that the humanitarian system and the bombardment operations in Gaza are collapsing. He also warns in his letter that in the current situation, amid constant bombardment by Israeli defense forces and without shelter or essentials to survive, I expect public order to completely break down soon due to the desperate conditions rendering even limited humanitarian assistance impossible. Guterres said the situation could get even worse. Put in the possible epidemics and the mass displacement of Palestinians in the neighborhood countries, he said, looms disaster. And he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. All right, let's see. Paul Fleming says a former California chief who brought a hatchet to the Capitol on January 6th and gave prior speeches calling for the execution of perceived political enemies has been sentenced to 11 years in prison. Good for him. All right, Paul Fleming's also a price of Januvia, diabetes drug. $6,000 in the United States, $900 in Canada, $200 in, I think that is France. Merck 2022 profits, $14.5 billion. CEO compensation, $52 million. See the problem here? Of course, they are doing it for the money. All right, let's see what else we got here. Paul Fleming says corporations are artificially driving up food prices to boost profits at our expense. I read that article as well. But chicken, tuna, and egg companies have all recently been forced to pay up in price fixing. Absolutely. So U.S. blocks UN Security Council demand for humanitarian ceasefire. Biden, Blinken complicit in genocide, according to E2247. Thank you, brother. Let's go ahead and play our first video. This is an interview that I did. I hope you like it. Comment on it. Whatever you do, let's go ahead and get busy because it's a good one. Check it out. Here we go.
Egberto Willies does a daily. He gets up at like 5 a.m. and he does a daily show on KPFT, which is the Pacifica station in Houston, Texas, which is could be a scary place to do progressive radio.
Yes, it is.
And he does it every day. He gets up, or at least every weekday. He's on the air. He's a popular guy. He has to prepare shows every day. He writes, he sings, he dances. No, I don't know if he does that, but, and I got one of I'm on Egberto's mailing list twice a day. I get two things. And today he wrote about, AIPAC, the American Israeli Political Action Committee. I think that's what it's called. And Jamal Bowman, and aiming their arrows at Jamal Bowman, who is, I hope, is going to be on our show several times. He's been on 3 times already. We're going to get him on a bunch more times. They're aiming at Jamal Bowman. They are running a candidate against Jamal Bowman. For folks who have their head in the sand, Jamal Bowman is a former New York City high school principal, like one of the most outstanding educational leaders in the city, who got elected to Congress in 2020. And, he beat, a long-standing, just like AOC, he beat a long-standing, member of Congress in the Democratic primary, and is now been in Congress for 4 years, joined the squad right away. He's different though, right? He's a little older. He's very soft-spoken in some ways, and he's gotten himself into trouble, but I'm going to let Egberto talk more. And now he's in people's, I had to use gun analogies, but he's in the sights of a bunch of rifles coming from somewhere. So, Egberto, first of all, how is it down in Houston these days? You guys surviving Greg Abbott and the red wave all over Texas?
Well, it's interesting because everywhere else is doing fine. The progressives are making much better headway than we have in Texas thus far. And mostly it's because I don't think a lot of the people in Texas have the faith that they need to have, that they can make a difference, that they are not only the plurality, but the majority, just a non-voting group of folk here. So we're working hard to kind of change it around and make sure that people get that belief that after all, these charlatans that are running Austin, Texas, we can actually beat them. And we've started it slowly, but we've started it. It's a difficult fight, as you know, but because it's also a difficult fight because when you have a Democratic Party that instead of fighting head on with the Republican Party that's harming people, decide to attempt to make alliances that will never work for them, it presents a problem. Those are the things that we're trying to extricate. Right here in Harris County, we're working to make sure that those politicians that are trying to keep their feet in both planes are actually extricated out of the system. So it's difficult, but we're getting it done. And watching what Bowman is doing also, it seems like he's having a bit of a problem as well with his own party.
So explain to people because your article wasn't about the Democratic Party, although he has a Democratic opponent.
Right.
Somebody who I've also had on my show too, George Latimer, who, when he got elected, was somebody who progressives worked really hard for. Mm-hmm. What is the American Israeli Political Action Committee, which people just know as AIPAC?
Yeah.
What is that?
AIPAC is a very, very powerful lobbying organization. They have a lot of money, deep pockets. Many times we don't know where all those funds that fund this organization comes from, but I would wager that, whenever we talk about Israel, Israel is an independent country But Israel is also, because it's the country that it's the Jewish homeland, if you will. Just about everybody that feel themselves a part of the Jewish homeland will support will support whatever it is that AIPAC has to support. And what AIPAC has been doing for decades is keeping politicians in check. In other words, the one thing Republicans and Democrats shared in common is that they never went, or they tried their best not to go against AIPAC. In other words, if AIPAC says Israel wants ABC, Israel gets ABC. And while I'm speaking about this, I want to make sure that people understand this. We're not talking about Jewish stuff here. We're talking about the state of Israel. And it's important that people get that distinction, because too often that distinction isn't made. And then at that point, the anti-Semitic trope is used. I don't allow the anti-Semitic trope because I make sure that the things that I say is sanctioned. And also I make sure make sure that as I say them, I corroborate it with my Jewish brothers and sisters, some on the right and some on the left. So, it is important that people understand that. But going back to AIPAC specifically, AIPAC decides what's going to get done with regards to the politicians that get elected and so forth, where they have power. In the article, what I try to make clear is that it is an anti-democratic process. Because what happens now is we have this particular lobbying organization, and this goes with any lobbying organization. The thing with AIPAC is that AIPAC is powerful. AIPAC has the deep pockets. And when it has the deep pockets, it means that you can get results. In our current system that has Citizens United and all these other, McCutcheon and all these other rules that allow the individual or the corporations to do as they please. So AIPAC decided that it was going to come against Bauman. And the first ad that they did on Bauman was a striking ad, misleading, but striking, something that I think all of us in the progressive space, if you will, have to make sure to counteract, because we can't allow any one organization to decide that they're going to control everything that any particular politician does or don't do.
And what did they do in that ad? What did they say?
They said that he was against Israel. The one thing they didn't say, and I should have had the commercial queued up. I don't. They never called him anti-Semitic. They never said that, because who could possibly say that about Bauman? But it was a commercial that made it seem like he was weak. He was anti-Israel. In other words, he was taking the position of Hamas, which is one of the other things that they do. You're either with Netanyahu or you are with Hamas, not anywhere in between. That's what they take. And that is a trope on my programs. I don't allow. In other words, I am not going to allow somebody to make the assumption that speaking out against Netanyahu or the Netanyahu-driven IDF is somehow going to make someone anti-Semitic. Instead, we call ourselves, we're supporting humanity.
So, and what AIPAC spends money, and sometimes they spend money in multiple ways. I know in my congressional district had an open seat, which in New York City is a rare thing to have. We had an open seat was it only last year? Feels like a million years ago. In 2022, we had an open seat, and there were 12, 13 candidates running. One of those, Mondaire Jones, who's now back up in Rockland trying to beat this guy Lawler. The candidates included like Bill de Blasio, who dropped out, and Yuli New, who came in second, and a guy named Dan Goldman. And Dan Goldman, who is a Levi Strauss heir and is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, spent his own 5 or 6 or 7, nobody knows exactly how much, $1 million on his campaign. He won with 24.5% against Yulin getting like 23.9%. But something called the New York Progressive Action PAC put out scathing mailings against Yulene. They called her an anti-Semite. They called her anti-tenant. They called her anti-gay, whatever. They just smeared up and down. And then it turned out that the New York Progressive Action PAC, which my political home is the New York Progressive Action Network. We almost went to court to stop the use of the name, was totally funded by AIPAC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not only did Goldman have his own, fortune to spend, but they spent another bunch of millions of dollars on flooding. And now they seem to they've decided to target a lot of members of the squad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so how do they do that? What's their mechanism for doing that? They spend money on.
You just stated one. They have somebody running against Cori Bush in Missouri. They have somebody, of course, running against Bauman in New York, and they're going to use several methods. And the thing about it, a lot of these methods we won't find out till after the election. When all the numbers are put together, it's like how you just found out, it turns out that this progressive group was really funded by AIPAC. So their intent really is to they're looking for, I think I read, they were seeking somebody to support them with $20 million to go after Rashida Tlaib. So, they are simply going to throw money wherever it sticks. And that's the intent. They believe they'll be successful. I think that the squad this time, I shouldn't say this time, because they have never really been able to beat the squad as a whole. Otherwise, AOC would not be there right now. If you recall, they put somebody up against her a few, I think the last cycle or the cycle before that. But I think that these people are sufficiently robust and progressive movement is sufficiently strong to hold the line. But what we cannot do, the progressive movement that is to not fight back hard. But let me tell you better. The other thing that I'm telling folks, like, right here in Houston, it's not enough to just fight back. What we have to do is make it unprofitable for them to make an attempt the next time to do this. In other words, we want to ensure that they lose that entire $100 million as they put it out there to try to put down progressive politicians that are humane, progressive politicians that are simply looking about saving lives, not being anti-Israel or anything of that sort, just saving lives. 15,000 dead Palestinians doesn't do anything to help any single person of Jewish descent, any single Israeli. In fact, what it will do and what it has started to do is create what you well know is blowback. So Arthur, you know that well. Whenever you have asymmetric type wars or whatever, the side that is asymmetrically on the low side responds quite a bit differently. And that's what we should be expecting. Today in one of the hearings, the director of the FBI said he has never seen so many blinking lights before. Does that tell you something?
He, by the way, just I was looking for some expert's opinion about AIPAC, and I found your show on the air. AIPAC is the American.
It stands for
American Israel Public Affairs Committee, not American Political Action Committee. American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Now, you said on your show, maybe 2 weeks ago, that AIPAC was going to spend $100 million to try to defeat Jamal Bowman.
Not only Jamal Bowen, that may be, I may have, it's Jamal Bowen and the squad. That's their budget to defeat Jamal Bowen and the squad.
Okay. So what do people, well, you're allowed to say what you want on my show about a candidate. I'm not, allowed to say who people should do. But how do you counter something like that? How do you counter $100 million?
Well, money doesn't vote. And that's what I tell people all of the time. First of all, on my show, I can't say go vote for Bauman, but on your show, I can say every New Yorker who is in Bauman's district would be crazy not to vote for Bauman. And why would that be the case? If we take a look at some of the person that is running against Bauman right now is a guy called, and you know this person, his name is, George Latimer. Okay. George Latimer is a 70-year-old guy. I'm not complaining about the 70-year-old guy, but, when he goes out and he says that Bauman is out of, he pretty much says Bauman is naive to believe that a ceasefire is what we need. He makes it clear that the reason he's running against Bauman is Bauman's position on Israel. Nowhere inside of Mr. Latimer's commentary was anything about, I am coming to solve the problems of Bauman's district, the district that Bauman serves, that he's not doing well in. He's not talking about, let's go ahead and create jobs. Let's go ahead and take care of the issues that matter to the citizens of Westchester. He's not saying that. He never mentioned that. So the question is, he's running as the person representing a foreign government, the ideals of a foreign government, because he's saying nothing whatsoever with regards to what he's going to do for the people of Westchester. Nothing.
Well, I have to say, I mean, Jamal is a friend of mine. I've done legal work for him. Jamal had to be one of the most, in the progressive community, on this show, I was very critical of a lot of ways people came out right away after October 7th, excusing Hamas, using the word but, using the word context. To me, there's no context and there's no buts for murdering and raping, beheading and doing whatever they did to civilians in Israel. And Jamal came out and he denounced Hamas. AOC did the same thing and didn't use the word but, didn't use the word understand the context. He understood and still has tried to meet with, there's a lot of Jews that live in Westchester County where there's also, it happens to be a 50% black district, which is probably how he got elected.
Let me just say one thing, because I've heard a lot of Jewish people speak about Jamal. He got a ton of Jewish votes. They really love his character.
Right. And he's so thoughtful. He is such a thoughtful guy. He's passionate, but he is extremely thoughtful. And his discussions about Israel and Hamas and Palestine and the right to Palestinians and how you deal with that intractable situation there is very thoughtful, which frankly is the only way to deal with it. If you come out beating your chest on one side or the other, you're missing, to me, that's my opinion, you are missing how complex the whole discussion has to be. And he deals with it in a complex way, but he's going to get painted as an anti-Semite by AIPAC. And it's unfortunate, like George Latimer said he's thinking of running. He went to Israel first.
Yes.
Came back from Israel, got off the plane and said, I'm running. George Latimer, who is the Westchester County executive and never had to do anything about Israel or foreign policy. A nice, good guy. Did a really good job for the last 6 years. So, it's very, very scary. But
let me tell you, if I may say, Arthur, I think that was a mistake on the part of Latimer. And I think that is that if done correctly with the right amount of, what's the word that I want to use? With the right of compassion, of empathy, that before he ran for the position, he went to Israel and then came back and ran in a domestic election. There is a commercial, there is an ad that is waiting to be written, whether he's there to represent his population, his entire district, or he's there to represent Netanyahu. And given that he met with Netanyahu, as I recall, when he went to Israel, there is an ad to be made without affecting Jewish sensibilities. Because remember, Netanyahu is not a loved quantity in Israel. Also, there is a distinct group of Israeli Jews in New York that are a part of the progressive movement who wants to actually solve the wants a two-state solution, want to treat Palestinians like human beings. And these are Jewish New Yorkers we're talking about. So I think well-placed ads, well-placed coming on stations, doing the interviews with you right there in the district, right, is what Bauman needs to be. I don't think Bauman needs to be hiding or just kind of staying quiet. I think he has to actively campaign in the Jewish community. And there are going to be a large percentage that are just going to buy the thing like, well, whatever Netanyahu says, but Netanyahu is not liked in Israel. So I think if he goes ahead and says, well, look, Mr. Latimer, which is a fact, is now an agent for Netanyahu. Mr. Latimer went to Israel, and because of the position that Bauman has taken, which is anathema or is not the position that Netanyahu wants, he is going to run against Bauman. Who is he there to serve? And
I have to cut you off, Egberto. We got to do this some more. Yes. You have a much better voice than me for radio. We have to do this some more. Thank you so much, Egberto Willies, who is a daily host on KPFT in Houston. I'm sure it's online if you want to listen to Egberto. If it's online, you can listen live, and it's probably also
you can go to politicsdoneright.tv.
Okay, politicsdoneright.tv. You can see Egberto every day. He's on the air.
Well, folks, I hope you like that. That's the interview we did a couple of days with the WBAI station in New York. And we were live on in New York for some time. Anyway, folks, welcome aboard E2247, Mike Cisak, Melissa Bowie, and who else is new on the chat? If I missed you, forgive me. I think I saw Bruce Pollard. Yes, my brother is there. Anyway, welcome aboard. Let's see what we got in the chat right now. Para ver. We have Bridge says, Mr. Trump's documented pattern of speech and its demonstrated real-time, real-world consequences pose a significant and imminent threat to the functioning of the criminal process. In this case, the appeals court wrote, the court said that Trump's campaign for 2024 presidency does not alter the court's historical commitment or obligation to ensure the fair administration of justice in criminal cases. We do not allow such an order lightly. Mr. Trump is a former president and current candidate for the presidency, and there's a strong public interest in that, has to say, the court said. But Mr. Trump is also an indicted criminal defendant, and he must stand trial in a courtroom under the same procedures that govern all other criminal defendants. That is what the rule of law means. Can it be any clearer? It sounds about right to me. Sounds about right to me. All right, let's see. Welcome aboard. Carl Cox is in the house. How you doing, Carl? Great to see you here, my brother. Carl Cox says Mike Cisak is wrong again. As usual, he says. Yvette Avery says, great interview. Thank you, my beautiful Yvette. I appreciate that. And Tom C. is finally here. Better late than never. Well, Tom, since you are late, the penalty is another limerick. We need another limerick from Brother Tom. All right. Look, I did a little piece on, it actually was an impromptu piece that I did on KPFT this morning because I'm glad it's Tom C here because as I announced it on KPFT, I said, I found this article on New York Times. What I failed to say is that Tom Zarnick was the instigator of this particular article that I read. And after watching the video and digesting the article and from what I know of the NHS, I really got pissed off. And this morning I had a little soliloquy that I did at KPFT. And I'll be frank with you, I want to play that right now for two reasons. One, I am pathetically tired after only sleeping 2.5 hours last night. And number two, I think it was an important piece that both audiences need, both my KPFT audience and my online audience, 3 o'clock audience. And one other thing that I want to say that I'm so happy about, I also have a cross-pollination both at KPFT and here. So there is a small intersectionality of viewers as well. And I just want to tell all of you, thank you. I love you. Let's keep it going. But let's also do something that's very important. Let's share these videos. Let's share not only the videos, not only the live that we're doing, but we do a lot of blogs. We do a lot of articles that we write. Please share it all. That's how we get it populated in the entire space. But anyhow, let's go with that piece that I did this morning at KPFT. First of all, there was a time when almost bar none, the British National Healthcare Service, known as NHS, was the most well-known system where people paid zero. Healthcare was considered a right, and right now it is going through, as we would say in Panama, páramo. It's going through hell. And there's a short video. I want any of you who get a chance, I want to put the link to the article inside of the chat. And for those of you in the chat, you can go look for the article. I'll post the article along with the newsletter at politicsandright.com/newsletter as well. But I want to say something about it. Buenos días, Gerardo López. Saludos, saludos. Good morning, Gerardo. ¿Cómo estás, hermano mío? Anyway, the issue is there was a time right after World War II, this great institution was founded. And if you got sick, you just went ahead and showed your card. You go get some health care, whether you needed an operation, medicine, whatever you needed. It was taken care of. It was paid for out of the general funds. And it worked. And it worked for decades. But there is something that most Americans don't realize. We have gotten indoctrination for decades that try to give us the feeling, the ability that only, or not only, that it is the private sector that can do things better than anything else. There's an interesting caveat here that I always try to tell people. The private sector is comprised of shareholders who, create the companies, and if it's a corporation, executives who run corporations, and all the employees of that corporation who actually do the work. A public system is we the people, the government, who hires executives who then hire a bunch of people to do the work. So we have government executives, or meaning managers and employees for the government. We have shareholders. We have executives and the same employees who do the work. The theory that you have been told that is more efficient than anything else since apple pie is that if you have the model that says shareholder, corporation, employee, if that model runs healthcare, that somehow it can be more efficient than the model that says government, executives, meaning managers, shareholders. I want to show the distinct difference here. The one-to-one correspondent is the following. The workers are identical, right? If you're a doctor, whether you work for the government or you work for the private sector, you're a doctor, you have to have the same training. So employees, same thing, right? There's a slight difference. When it comes to employees at that level, you will find that the government employees have more protection than the private sector employees who generally gets less protection. They fight for unions to get better. The executives in the private sector generally get more money. They're paid on bonuses as well. If they're able to create more profits, they get more bonuses. The executives in the government, they make a salary. Then we have the government, of course. All they do is collect taxes so that they can pay the managers and the employees to provide a service. In the case of shareholders, they do absolutely nothing but sit back, put their money in a pool, and wait for the profits to come in. And in the case of healthcare, those profits are equivalent to services not rendered to the people, right? Services not rendered, excess not. That's what it turns out to be. You are made to believe that model with the shareholders skimming monies for themselves can somehow be more efficient than that model that just has the government, the managers, and the employees. And why is that? They say because it's competition. All right. And the truth of the matter is, there's some truth to that. If I have Pizza Shop 1, Pizza Shop 2, Pizza Shop 3, Pizza Shop 4, Pizza Shop 5, and all of us sell pepperoni pizza, we have to do something special so that Pizza Shop, that you will shop instead of at Pizza Shop 4, you shop at Pizza Shop 2. Right? So usually what happens is there are coupons, there are price reductions and all that sort of stuff to entice you to go to that pizza place. So that kind of works in the private sector. Just having one government with one pizza shop, a monolithic pizza shop, it's kind of sick, crazy. It's kind of like, you don't get that variety, right? But there are basically not many ways to fix a broken leg, or if your leg is broken, you want that broken leg fixed, and you don't have any time to go shop around or anything of that nature, right? So before I go further into this discussion, I want to say that every economy should be perfectly bifurcated. In other words, those services that belong into areas where people have choices, competition reigns. But there are areas where people don't have choices. And in those areas, that is where collectively we, the people, should reign, where there shouldn't be any profit motive that generates what kind of care you would get. Going back to the story at the New York Times, the NHS is in bad shape right now. And it is in bad shape because, believe it or not, the private sector got involved. It got that way because, like what Republicans do in the United States, they very much attempt to make government as bad as possible. Try to make it not work so that they can say, well, you see, government doesn't work, so we must transfer this to the private sector. To which I ask you, inherently, what would make the private sector better in healthcare than the government sector? What differences are there? The only difference in the way things work again is the shareholder versus government. A shareholder that does absolutely nothing, and government. So when the NHS began to fail, and I want you to go to the link that I provided in the chat. I'll put it in the newsletter later on. I didn't put it in last night, but I'll add it to the newsletter tonight, and you can find the newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. That link has a great dissertation, and it has a video within that New York Times article that explain how the private sector, along with a corrupt government leadership, can destroy something that worked for everybody in order then for those parasites who brought it down to instead collect excesses from the population at large. People, we have to get smart. There are a group of people that are not all that smart. They're no smarter than you and me. What they are is built into their psyche is thievery. And they do it in an antiseptic manner, in a manner that's legal, in a manner that actually increases their reputation. It's a world that is turned upside down. Johnny, I'm coming to you in a minute. It's a world that is turned upside down. We reward that person who can cut cost on the backs of people to make profit. You doubt that? You doubt that? This is the start of the show that was not supposed to be the start of the show, but just because I read that New York Times article, I sort of wanted to put a little nodule in your brain and ask you, first of all, sometimes I'm not sure if I'm absolutely clear in the way I'm making my statements, and I say, hey guys, tell me if you followed the direction of the discourse, if you have a critique, if you have a comment of what I just stated.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely so, folks. I hope everybody got that, because the one thing, the biggest fallacy that we have out there is that because something is in the private sector, that it is inherently better than something in the government. The thing about it is managers, employees, whether government or private sector, are all the same. They're knowledgeable or they're not. They make mistakes or they are not. They screw up or they don't. We have to stop allowing folks to indoctrinate us into doing the wrong thing. Bree says, my family, although in Northern Ireland, is on the UK health system, they're fine. Most people are fine. They never go bankrupt, right? Bree says, made complete sense. We'll ask family who are under UK healthcare. What's up? Let's see. Daniel Ledo says, nitpicks that you about the fray. I have been speaking English for over 50 years. I have no idea what that means. Well, maybe you should understand one deviation in the English language is that, first of all, not because you don't understand it means that it ain't so. Okay? Remember that. And also remember there are various dialects spoken in English in this one country. Thank you. Thank you. Remember that. Let's see what else we got here. Mike Cisak says the problem is that all levels of government currently take too much money out of people's pockets, which make it extremely difficult to do private sector work, while the government wastes money on horribly performing government-run entities, which is it's complete nonsense, what my brother Mike Cisak just said. If paying a bill with private sector insurance eats up between 18 to 30% of the premiums that they collect, that is so much more inefficient. Even if the federal government had a 10% wastefulness rate or 15% wastefulness rate, it would still be more efficient than the pilfer that occurs by insurance companies who simply transfers that money to their shareholders and executives. It is at a 15% wasteful type of spending. Even that would be better in our current healthcare system than the private sector. The private sector in public things, in parks, in transportation, in healthcare, profit becomes an inefficiency. I repeat, profit becomes an inefficiency in things that are there for the public good. Healthcare, energy, and many other areas that do not belong in the private sector, as I attempted to show when I spoke about pizza. We want to have pizza in the private sector, grocery stores in the private sector, all these other things in the private sector, because again, you get choices. But when it comes to healthcare, etc., that's a different animal. Under the capitalist model, there is never an incentive to get you well. There is never an incentive to have you healed, because a healed patient is a patient that is not coming back. A healed patient is not a moneymaker. A patient that remains sick is what capitalism needs. That is why they have items like all these drugs that treat chronic diseases. Capitalism loves chronic diseases because they will require the medicines that they profit on forever, for your entire life. They're not really interested in cures, because cures have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the end means I'm making no more money from you. Remember that. Tom C. says, what does above the fray means? Above the fray, not directly involved in an angry or difficult struggle or disagreement. His political aides handled the controversy while he remained above the fray. Tom C., the great educator. Thank you very much, Mr. Tom. I wasn't even going to bother, but it's good that you did that, my dear brother. All right, let's see what else we got. UNC met this morning in public for speechifying, but met in closed session, just ended to actually vote. So US, UK didn't have to stand for genocide in public. It's amazing, isn't it? It is utterly amazing. Thank you for putting that out there, E2247. Very, very important statement. Let's see what else did I misread or miss to read. Para ver. Okay. Anybody wants to call in and make a comment? 281-823-7747. Love to hear from you. Repeating one more time. 281-823-7747. And you know what? Tom Cisak has paid his penance. Limerick from Thanksgiving. He's paid his penance for being late. And here's the limerick. Be thankful today that Joe Biden is still our president, and that orange MAGA madman's not the White House resident. Joe may be old and slow, but no other Dems are ready to go. So in 24, vote for the democracy. Don't pause or be hesitant. Man, you're good. That's all I'm going to say, brother. You're good. You're good. That's all I'm going to say, brother Tom. Tom, I don't know when you're going to have the Tom Zarnik Limerick book, that just have hundreds and hundreds of limericks, because it seems like you can come up with them like that. All right, we also have, Bree says, most people where I live are on the right. Some wear tinfoil on their heads, like some here. We got new smart meters. They are flipping out. Big government controlling us. They can turn off our electricity. They always could. People, They can listen to you into your house. Oh my God. It goes on and on over smart meters. And these are the same people that have Alexa in their house and that has Google in their house. What is it, Google called? OK Google? They have OK Google. They have Alexa in their homes. Hey, here's a secret, guys. If you have Alexa, if you have OK Google in your home, if you have any device that listens for commands in your home, there is a direct connection between your voice, the company who, in this case, Google or Amazon, who has your voice recorded, and that people who are listening to you. So if you really want privacy, or if you really don't want the government in your home, you should also be more scared about having the corporation in your home. But hey, who am I? Who am I? That's why I was trying to, I didn't, there's a piece of the show that I didn't record, or that I didn't put in that piece, right? Where I tell people, we have got to get smarter. We have got to get smarter. We have got to stop people from doing the things that, if you listen to Eric and Ledo, the kind of information that they get that always puts them on edge. They're always on edge that somebody's doing something, when most of the things being done to them are things they're allowing others to do to them willfully. Willfully. It's amazing. It's amazing. Better have a year's worth of savings. And the interesting thing about it is that's old time, a year's worth of savings. You're assuming that money is going to be money, right? Look, I agree. It's good to have savings and have good savings. But, when you put out big edicts like that, you forgot some very important things about money. But that's for another day. Bridge MCP says, it is so weird that people on the right have the same exact words. The left doesn't. Well, we're not indoctrinated, What can I say? Eric A says, Egberto, do you have any savings? I have a very small, my savings have dwindled. And why did it dwindle? It dwindled from a whole bunch when I was doing my Willie's computer software company. I had all kind of licenses on my software. As I dedicated to this, it dwindled into next to nothing. But let me tell you better, brother. I am the happiest I have ever been. It's funny. There was a time I could walk into any store, go anywhere and buy whatever I needed to buy or wanted to have. Now I have to think about buying things, have to think about that. And, I'm the happiest I've ever been because I feel like I'm making a difference. I know that I'm making a difference. I have the emails to prove that I'm making a difference. I have all that. That stuff that people write. I remember when I knew I was doing a good job is when this right-wing woman, she really came to me in tears, and it was her son. She was in the right-wing bubble about Obamacare, and her son was, I don't remember what kind of a mental thing he had, or what kind of disability he had. But I pointed out to her that because her state, they accepted the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care, that her son qualified to get health care free of charge. She hadn't a clue. All she listened to was Fox News, right-wing station that told her how bad Obamacare was. And when that woman, I remember her calling into the show. That's when I did it it was called Liberal Politics Done Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was called Liberal Politics Done Right. She called in and she cried. She sent emails thanking me. Her son had health care. And imagine, all that information was wide out there. She just happened to stumble on me through the coffee party, who was a transpartisan organization. And in hearing those words, it changed her son's life. one conversation. So no, it's all worth it. And I tell you what, I did this not completely altruistically. My website then had blown up. It was taken off like crazy. And then one day I lost 90% of my revenue from the website. And that's when I went to Patreon and all the subscription based stuff, because the corporations did all of us little guys like me in. We lost 90% of our revenue that we normally got from ads, etc., which I had arranged all my finances to run the way it was running. So, you win some and you lose some. And we're still, after 10 years, still recovering from the loss of that. But anyhow, that's life. Anyway, Bridge says, if something extremes happen to your family and runs you or everything, then you will understand how people who work hard and still can't get ahead feel. Spewing words like work harder or have savings, blah, 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 do not have a clue, as they never lived in that word. No empathy, no understanding how the world is working. Usually they are privileged white people, mostly men. It's interesting, Bridge. That is the most important statement that you've made for the day. It's easy to say save or spend better or do all of that. You have to have the wherewithal and the ability to do so, and the mobility to do so. Bridge, you have the between you and Tom today, Tom for the limerick and you for those words. But you won today for those words. Tom C says, Egberto, your savings are the savings you do every day, saving our humanity and sanity. Thank you, my brother. I accept that. Oh boy. Anyway, we won't remember, Bridge. You don't follow up on the Don't follow up. You taught me that, Bridge. You taught me that. Anyway, folks, I got to get out of here. I want to first tell you guys to please support the program. How can you support the program? Go to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. I'm putting that link in there. And that link has all the many different ways that you can support the program. Chuck Pinaccio, love you too, brother. We got to talk. I got to get you on some healthcare stuff soon again, brother. Anyway, politicsdoneright.com/support is where you can find one of the many ways that we take in support. Likewise, I'm asking everybody who has the ability to do so. I only have, I think, currently 58 paid subscribers. I have like 8,000, 7,000 something subscribers to my Substack, and only 0.5% are actual paid subscribers. I'm asking, and it's free. I want as many people to see the newsletter as possible. And the idea is, how I think, but I'd love for more of you, the ones that can say, I'm going to buy Egberto a coffee, or Politics Done Right a coffee a month, to do that by becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. And you can go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. But it's not like you're getting nothing for that. For that, you get all of my books that you'll be able to read online at Substack. It will be online that you can read all of my books, and every subsequent book that I write, you'll be able to read it without purchasing the book, because you are a subscriber to my newsletter. So folks, I ask you so kindly, go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, become a supporter. It's only a coffee a month. Anyway, my name is Egberto Willies. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.